The wind howled outside the cave, cold and sharp like knives. Inside, Riva held her children close. Their small alien bodies trembled in the dark as she wrapped them in her thin shawl. The cave was deep, hidden behind a wall of jagged rocks. Far from the burned remains of her village, Reva was not strong. She was not a soldier. She was only a widow with 2 little ones and nowhere left to run. Her skin shimmered faintly in the low light, a sign of her people, the Velar. Once proud, now hunted. She had escaped the slavers by crawling through a river of mud and blood. Others weren't so lucky. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. Children had only roots and melted snow. She tried to stay brave for them, but her hands shook every time she heard a sound from outside. Then it came. Crunch. A heavy footstep, just one. She froze. Not a beast. Beasts moved fast and wild. This step was slow, careful. Another crunch. Then silence. She grabbed her sharpened bone spear and crept toward the cave entrance, careful not to wake the children. Her heart pounded like drums in her chest. She crouched low, eyes glowing faintly in the dark, and waited. The wind shifted. Then a shadow moved. Someone staggered into view. Tall, broad shoulders, wrapped in black gear and armor. Not Valari. Not a slaver. He had strange skin, pale and bloody. His face was marked with cuts. One of his arms hung useless. Riva gasped. A human. She had heard of them. Violent, powerful, dangerous. Some said they were myths. Others said they came from a cursed death world where even the plants could kill. The human took another step, then dropped to his knees. His head fell forward, and he collapsed face first in the snow. Dead? She waited 1 minute, 2, 3. Then she stepped out, spear ready, and rolled his body over. He groaned. Alive, she should have left him. She should have run. But something in his face stopped her. Not fear, not anger, just pain. So much pain she dragged him into the cave. He was heavy, but she managed. Her children stirred as she pulled him closer to the fire pit. Let the dried moss and leaves warming the space with faint orange light. His body shook. His lips moved, but no sound came. She didn't understand his words. She understood his eyes. He was asking for help, and against every instinct, she gave it. She poured melted snow on a cloth and cleaned his wounds. She didn't know much about human biology, but his blood was red, his body burned with fever, and one of his legs had a jagged piece of metal in it. She didn't have medicine, only herbal paste. Still, she did what she could. The children watched quietly, clutching each other. One of them whispered, "Is he bad, Mama?" She didn't answer. The night passed slowly. The storm outside raged on. Inside, Reva stayed awake, feeding the fire, watching the strange man sleep. He muttered in his dreams, names, cries, screams. She saw the scars on his chest, on his arms. Some were old. Some were fresh. This man had seen war. I didn't sleep. His face looked peaceful, like a soldier finally resting after too long. When the sun rose weakly outside the cave mouth, she saw color return to his face. His breathing was steady. She turned away to check on her children. Then a voice spoke behind her. "Where am I?" She spun around. The human was awake barely, but his eyes were open. His hand twitched near his side, but he had no weapon. "Are in my cave," she said in her own tongue. He blinked, confused. Then he tapped a small device on his collar. A soft hum came from it. "Repeat that," he said. "You are in my cave," she repeated. The device translated her words. His eyebrows raised. "I didn't mean to intrude," he said. She kept her spear pointed. "Why are you here?" "Ship down. Lost. My beacon is broken." I walked, looking for help. She stared at him, trying to read the truth in his voice. "Do you have food?" she asked quietly. He reached into his belt pouch and pulled out a silver pack. "Ration. 1 left. You can have it." She took it. Not for herself, for her children. "Thank you," she said stiffly. He gave a weak smile. "I'm Corin, human. Soldier, and you. She hesitated. Reva. Corin nodded, then looked toward the cave roof. Reva, thank you for not letting me die. She didn't answer. But deep in her heart, she wondered if saving this human would bring salvation. Or only more danger. Because in this galaxy, no one helped a widow with children. And yet, he had come from the shadows. The children huddled near the fire, watching the human with wide, curious eyes. Reva sat close, spear still resting across her lap. The man Karan was awake now, sitting upright against the cave wall, his back scratched and bruised, one leg. Wrapped in her makeshift bandage, he hadn't moved much since sunrise. Every time he shifted, Reva's grip on the spear tightened. Corin noticed. You don't trust me? Said quietly. Reva didn't reply. Her children, small and thin, with glowing skin like hers, leaned closer to her arms. The youngest one, Tari, spoke. Softly, Mama. Is he going to eat us? Corin flinched at the translator's repeat of the child's words. I don't eat children, he said, raising both hands slowly. I'm not your enemy. Reva's eyes narrowed. That's what slavers say. I'm not a slaver, he replied. I was sent here to fight them. That made her pause. You fought them? I tried, he answered. But we were ambushed. My team was scattered. I lost the signal. Then I ended up here. The voice was steady, but there was pain under every word. Not just physical, deeper than that. Reva had seen the same pain in other survivors. It's a kind that doesn't leave after the blood dries. You could have died, she said. I almost did. He looked at her, then the children, then the cave walls. Blackened from old fire smoke. This is no place for young ones, he whispered. They should be somewhere safe, not in a hole in the ground. Reva bristled. It's the only place the slavers haven't found. She looked down at her son, who curled his arms around her leg. No one wants a widow and two mouths too. Feed, she added, voice sharp. I'm nothing out there. But here, in this cave, at least I can keep them alive. Corin didn't argue. He just stared into the fire. After a long silence, he opened another ration pack. The wrapper hissed. Open, revealing protein cubes. He pushed it toward her, split it with them. Reva looked at the food, then at him. Why? She asked. You're weak, bleeding, alone. You should be saving it for yourself. He gave a small smile. I've eaten worse. Let them have. The children needed no invitation. They grabbed the cubes with tiny hands, nibbling fast but polite. Reva allowed it, still keeping one eye on Corin. Human? She asked. Why did you come here? To this planet? He exhaled slowly. Command. Said there was a call for help. Refugees? Slaver activity? We dropped in to assist. We didn't expect the resistance to be this strong. Her face darkened. We sent that call. My village. Corin's head lifted. My mate was killed during the raid, Reva said. They burned our homes, took the elders, the young girls. We fled. Some escaped, others didn't. She stopped herself, teeth pressing against her tongue. Corin didn't press for more. Outside. The wind picked up again, howling across the rocks like lost voices. Reva's body tensed. Her ears twitched toward the entrance. Corin noticed. You think they're close? He asked. They always come after storms, she said. They track heat and movement. It won't be long. I'll help you defend. This place, he said. Reva laughed cold and bitter. You? You can't even stand? Corin didn't reply. He simply reached under his torn armor and pulled out a small black box. A beacon, he said. Broken now. But with tools I can fix it. Maybe call my team. She leaned in closer. If they come, will they help? Or take us too? Eyes met hers. I'll make sure they protect you. A moment passed. Then Reva stood and turned away. Later that night, as the fire dimmed and the children finally slept, Reva sat across from Corin. Her voice was soft. They think you're their father, she said. Corin looked up, surprised. Why? They've never had a man protect them before, she said. You gave food. You didn't shout. You didn't push them aside. For them, that is more than enough. Corin said nothing. He only looked down at his hands. Don't give them. Hope if you plan to leave, Riva added. I'm not leaving yet, he said. She nodded, then rest. Tomorrow, we move deeper into the forest. I know a place with stone walls and a clean spring. If we're lucky, we might stay there for a few days before the trackers find us. Corin shifted against the wall and whispered, I'll be ready. Sleep took her. Reva felt a strange calm in the air.
Oh.
Maybe it was the firelight. Maybe it was the man who had arrived from nowhere and stayed. For now, they weren't alone. The fire had dyed 2 glowing embers, casting soft red light across the stone floor. Outside, the forest whispered. Inside, silence ruled. The children were asleep, curled beside each other like 2 small animals, their breaths soft and warm. Reva sat with her knees drawn close, arms wrapped around them. Across from her, Corin leaned back, half awake. Staring at the ceiling with tired eyes, he looked different in the quiet. Less like a soldier, more like a ghost, who'd forgotten how to rest. Riva's eyes lingered on him. Then she spoke in a low voice, careful not to wake the little ones. My people believe dreams are messages from those we've lost, she said. Do your kind believe that too? Corin blinked, then shook his head gently. No, we call them memories in disguise. What did you dream just now? She asked. He paused and answered, I saw fire. My squad, we were under attack. Tried to pull one of them out, but he didn't make it. Reva lowered her head. You carry too many ghosts. We all do, he replied, but yours are heavier. Reva turned her face away. I'm still breathing. That makes me luckier than most. The silence returned. Then Corin spoke again, slower this time. Your children. Do they know about their father? She asked. They know enough. He died protecting us. That's what matters. Corin nodded. They miss him. But they're too young to remember clearly. And in this galaxy, children learn early. Life doesn't stop for grief. Reva stood slowly and walked to the back wall, where she kept her few belongings, a bundle of cloth, a cracked dish, and a folded piece of woven silk. She unwrapped it and pulled out a carved pendant. This was his, she said. I keep it for them. To remind them someone once loved them enough to die for them. Corin watched her closely. You love them a lot, he said. They are all. I have, Reva replied. I would trade my last breath for theirs. She sat back down and looked at him directly. But I'm not enough. Not anymore, what do you mean? She hesitated. I can feed them roots. I can teach them how to hide. But I can't teach them courage, or how to stand tall without fear. Their world has no fathers, only shadows and escape. Corin looked. At the sleeping children? One stirred and whispered a word in their tongue. He didn't understand it, but Reva smiled faintly. She called for you, Reva said. For me? Corin asked. She sees you as a protector, not just a guest. You brought food? You fought your pain and still stood beside us. That is what a father looks like. Corin sat quiet for a while. Then he said, You don't know me. I could leave tomorrow. Yes, she said calmly. That's why I asked tonight. Ask what? She looked at him with eyes full of truth and fear, and something deeper than both. Stay for a while, just long enough to let them feel safe. I am not asking for mating, or vows, or anything of flesh. I'm asking as a mother who is out of choices. Corin didn't answer right away. He stood up, wincing from the pain in his side, and stepped toward the cave mouth. The moonlight painted the trees silver beyond the rocks. He stood there, quiet. Reva joined him. I've seen what humans can do, she whispered. Your weapons, your ships, your will. And yet you gave your last ration to a widow you just met. Why? Corin looked up at the stars. Because someone once gave me a second chance, he said. Maybe it's time I give someone else the same. She tilted her head. Then stay, she whispered. Hey, be what they need, even if only for a little. While, let them remember kindness, not just survival. Corin turned to her. His voice was firm now. I'll stay, till you're safe, till they're ready to stand without trembling. Reva didn't cry, but something inside her began to breathe again. They went back inside. She lay beside her children. Corin took the far corner of the cave. Before sleep took her, she said softly into the dark, "Thank you, human." The first time in many nights Reva dreamed of light instead of fire. Corin stepped outside the cave before sunrise. The forest was still and silent, covered in a fresh sheet of snow. Frost clung to the bare branches like silver veins. He bent down slowly, testing his weight on the injured leg. It still hurt, but he could move. That's when he saw them, tracks not his. Not Reva's. Fresh, taut, heavy boots. Wider stride. And then the sign he feared most. A small symbol carved into a tree. Slaver mark. A warning to others. They were close. He stood motionless, his breath forming clouds in the cold air. Every instinct, from years of combat, screamed inside him. The enemy wasn't coming. The enemy was already here. He turned back into the cave. Reva was crouched near the fire, wrapping thick cloth around her children. She looked up as he entered. One glance. At his face, and her hands froze. "What is it?" she asked. Corin pointed to the entrance. Footprints, slaver sign, less than a day old. Her skin dimmed to a pale hue, the Valari sign of fear. "They found us." "Not yet," he said, grabbing his gear. "But they will if we don't. Move." She held her children close. "I can't run again, not with them in this cold." Corin looked around the cave. Then his eyes stopped on the far wall, a narrow crack, barely visible. "What's behind that?" "A tunnel," Reva said. "Old escape route. Dangerous. Wet. Slippery. Where does it lead?" "Downhill. Toward the ice river." Corin didn't hesitate. "Then that's where we go." Reva started packing immediately. She took only what mattered. Dried roots, a piece of cloth, her late mate's pendant. Corin helped wrap the children. We could tell they were confused, but they obeyed. No tears. No noise. These weren't ordinary children. These were children of war. As they reached the tunnel opening, Reva hesitated. "If the passage collapses, it won't." Corin cut in. "But if we stay, the hunters will find us." She nodded. He went first, squeezing through the crack, his body scraping against the cold stone. The air was damp, the walls dripping with moisture. Reva followed, one child tied to her back, the other clinging to her front. They moved slowly, careful not to slip. The tunnel was narrow and twisted, but it held. After an hour of crawling and sliding, they emerged into a grove below the ridge. Snow still fell, but the trees were thicker here, hiding their tracks. A small frozen stream ran nearby. "We rest here," Corin said. "I'll set a false trail going north." Reva looked at him, confused. "You're drawing them away?" He nodded. "You could die. I could die sitting still too." He handed her a small knife. "If they reach you, don't hesitate." She didn't argue. He left silently, moving through the woods like a ghost. Reva sat with her children beneath the low branches, her heart beating fast. Time passed. The children whispered softly, "Mama, will he come back?" Reva looked at the woods, then back at them. "Yes," she said. "He promised." Corin returned hours later, his body shaking from cold and effort. But his eyes held fire. "I left tracks far from here. If they follow them, we buy a day." Reva helped him sit. She touched his arm, not as a stranger now, but as someone who had seen too much and still hoped. "You didn't have to come back," she said. "I did," he replied. "They need me." She didn't answer, but the way she looked at him said enough. That night, they built a low shelter from branches and snow. The wind howled, but they were hidden. The children slept between them, safe for now. Corin lay awake, staring at the stars through the cracks in the branches. Reva spoke softly beside him. "My people believe that those who return from danger without fear have found a purpose." He turned to her. "Have I? You might have," she said. "If you stay," he smiled faintly, and for the first time, he believed it. Smoke wasn't supposed to rise in this part of the forest. Not here, not now. But as the first light of dawn touched the treetops, Corin smelled it. He shot up from the snowy ground, heart already pounding. The children were still asleep beside Reva, wrapped in warmth. Reva noticed him stiffen and followed his gaze. Then they saw it. Thin strands of smoke curling above. The trees behind them, not from a cooking fire. This was darker. This was destruction. They found the cave. Reva said no, Corin muttered. They found our scent. He grabbed his gear and scanned the area. He had laid a false trail. He had led them far north, but slavers were predators. They hunted slow, clever, relentless. Corin's eyes moved to the trees. Something wasn't right. Then he saw the motion, quick flicker of movement. Not animals. Too fast, too low. They're here. Reva clutched both children, one in each arm. What do? We move now, he said. East. Toward the ice cliff. There's a clearing beyond it. If I can reach the ridge, I can signal my squad. He lifted one child onto his back. Reva held the other. They ran. Snow crunched underfoot. The cold bit harder. Behind them, distant shouts echoed through the trees, not human voices. Slaver tongues. The sounds came closer and closer. Corin slowed just long enough to check his stun baton. Power cell low, but usable. They reached the cliff, a steep wall of frozen stone. No way to climb with the children. Give them to me, he said. Both you climb. I'll follow. Reva looked terrified. You'll be too slow. Won't be if I throw them first.
What? Before she could argue, Corin wrapped a smaller child in his coat and gently tossed her onto the soft snow patch above, then the other. Then he grabbed the ice ledge with bare hands and began to
climb. Behind them, the trees exploded with movement. Slavers burst through, 6 of them, armed with stun lances and nets. Reva screamed. One grabbed her ankle. Corin reached the top, pulled himself over, and turned around and jumped back down straight onto the slaver. The fight was brutal. The human moved like a storm. Fists breaking jaws, boots slamming into. Next, his baton hissed with electric fire as it struck a slaver in the chest. Dropping him cold, another net flew, catching Corin across the shoulders. He ripped it free, bleeding now. Reva crawled back, shielding the children. Then a slaver reached for her youngest, without thinking. She stabbed him in the throat with her broken spear. Blood sprayed. Corin looked at her stunned. The mother had become the weapon. Only 2 slavers remained. Corin rushed them, ignoring the pain. He slammed one into a tree, then turned to the last, who raised a plasma knife. Too fast to block, too close to dodge. Then a high-pitched scream. The child, the older one, had thrown a rock. Just enough, Corin tackled him, and didn't stop until the forest was quiet again. His body shook. Reva crawled over and pulled him up. Are you alive? She asked, voice shaking. Still breathing, he said. The children ran to them, crying, hugging, and for the first time since he arrived on this planet, Corin collapsed. Not from wounds, but from relief. They had survived, but only barely. Later, as they lit a fresh fire in the clearing above the ridge, Reva sat beside him. You chose us, she whispered. You fought for them like they were yours. Corin didn't answer. He only looked at the children. They are mine, he finally said. They just don't know it yet. Reva's voice trembled. And what about me? He turned to her. You asked for someone to help, not someone to love. But what if I can do both? Her lips parted. No words came out. She didn't need them. Not anymore, because the fire that once meant danger now meant family. Snow drifted from the trees like falling ash, soft and slow. Reva stood at the edge of the cliff, watching Corin tend to the fire. The children laughed quietly nearby, building tiny towers of snow and sticks. Their hands were red, but their smiles were real. It was the first time they'd smiled in months. Reva didn't know how to feel about that. Corin moved carefully now. His arm was still healing, ribs bruised, but he never stopped. He sharpened broken branches into spears, reinforced the shelter with thick bark, and when night fell, stood guard so Reva could sleep without fear. He wasn't just surviving anymore, he was building. She walked over to him, brushing snow from her shoulders. You should rest, she said. He looked up at her and smiled. Rest is for after the fight. The fight's over, Riva said softly. Corin shook his head. The slavers may be dead, but the fear isn't. She sat beside him, staring into the fire. You came back when you could have escaped. She said, you bled for children who don't even share your blood. You've burned your hands to carry them to safety. Why? Corin poked the fire, the glow reflecting in his eyes. Because someone had to, and because they look at me like I matter. You do, Reva said, before she could stop herself. Corin looked at her, surprised. They called you father again today, she continued. Not in fear, not in confusion, but with hope. He glanced at the children. I never had a family, he said. I was raised in a war academy. I knew drills, not lullabies. It's orders, not bedtime stories. But when those kids run to me, it feels like I've always known them. Riva's throat tightened. I used to dream, she said, back when I was still a wife. I dreamed of a mate who would help me raise them, hunt with me, protect them, love them. Now, her voice barely above a whisper, that dream died with my village. Corin didn't speak. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small device. It had blinking lights and a cracked screen. I fixed the beacon, he said. It's broadcasting now. Her heart jumped. Someone will come, she asked. He nodded. If my unit is still alive, they'll hear it. Maybe hours, maybe a day. And then I'll have a choice. Her eyes dropped to the snow. Will you go? She asked. I should, he said. But I don't want to. She looked at him with wide eyes. You could return to safety, to your people, to your command. Why would you stay with a widow and 2 half-starved children on a frozen world? Corin leaned closer. Because I'm not their protector anymore, he said. I'm their father. I didn't plan it. I didn't expect it. But I won't run. From it, Riva's lips trembled. You were never meant to be one of us, she said. But now I am. Silence filled the clearing. The snow fell heavier. The fire cracked louder. Corin stood up and walked toward the children. They ran too. Him without fear. He lifted the youngest, spinning her once. She squealed with joy, her small hands gripping his jacket. Reva watched. Her chest tight with something too deep for words. Later that night, Corin returned to the fire. Reva sat waiting. I want you to understand something, he said quietly. When that ship comes, they may try to take us back to the capital, to process you, identify you. Reva nodded. Valari law does not apply off-world. I know, Corin said. But I'll speak for you. Why? She whispered. Because I don't need a blood test to know what they are to me, he said, looking toward the children. Or what? You are. She stepped closer, slowly, like a river meeting the sea. And what am I, Corin? You're the one who made me want to stay. She reached out and touched his hand. For the first time, it didn't pull away. Not as strangers, not as survivors, but as something new, something strong. A bond that could not break, not by time, not by war, not by blood, only by choice. And they had both chosen. The sky broke open with sound. A sleek black ship descended through the clouds, cutting across the sky like a blade. Wind blasted through the trees. The children clung to Riva's legs, eyes wide. Corin stood in front of them, shielding their bodies with his own. It wasn't a slaver ship, it was human. His beacon had worked. As the ship landed in the clearing, the ramp hissed open. 3 armored soldiers stepped out, weapons ready but lowered. The one in front removed her helmet, a woman with sharp eyes and a voice that belonged to command. Sergeant Corin, she said, you're alive. Barely, he replied. Her gaze moved to Riva, then the children. She raised an eyebrow. We expected prisoners, not a family. They are under my protection, Corin said clearly. The woman nodded once, then turned to her team. Scan the area, secure the perimeter, prepare medical kits. She looked back at Corin. We'll be leaving in 20 minutes. Corin turned to Riva. Her face was unreadable. The children stayed close to him. One held his hand, the other peeked up at him and smiled. Corin crouched down. You're going to see a ship now, he said gently. It might be loud, but it's safe. No one will hurt you. Promise. The older child nodded, brave as ever. The younger just pressed her head into his shoulder. Reva watched all of it in silence. When Corin stood again, she stepped close. They won't understand, she said. Your people.
Oh.
Your commanders. They won't know what this means. Then tell me, he said, so I can explain. She hesitated. In Valari law, she began. A man who protects a widow without payment, who feeds her children, who defends their lives. That man becomes her bondmate, not by words, not by ceremony, by action. Corin took a slow breath. And if that man accepts, then we are one, she said softly. And the children are his by law, forever. He looked at her for a long moment. Do I have to say anything? No, Reva whispered. You already did. The commander stepped closer. We have room for civilians, she said.
Hard.
The mother and her children can be processed at base, protected, fed, given shelter. Corin's jaw tightened. They won't just be civilians. Not to me. Reva looked at him, surprised. He reached into his jacket and pulled out the pendant, the one Reva had shown him in the cave. Carved by her late mate, Corin placed it gently around her neck. Let them record that, he said. Let them try to take it off her. The commander narrowed her eyes. You understand what that means, Corin? I do. It becomes part of your record. You're responsible for them. Can't turn back. Not turning back, he replied. The commander stared at him, then gave a slight nod. Then welcome to a bigger fight, soldier. They boarded the ship together. Reva stepped on first, carrying her children. Corin followed. The doors sealed behind them with a hiss. Inside, warm lights glowed. Seats folded out. Blankets were given. Medical supplies passed around. One medic knelt to examine the children. They refused to leave Corin's side, so the medic smiled and said, I guess you're dad now. Corin didn't deny it. He only placed his hand over Reva's and held it tight. As the ship lifted into the sky, Reva looked out the window. The forest below shrank, the old cave hidden forever. Snow still fell, quiet and white, covering the scars they'd left behind. She turned to Corin. I don't have a word for what I feel right now, she said. You don't need one, he replied. The children drifted to sleep on either side of him, and for the first time since his boots touched alien soil, Corin felt peace. Not because the war was over, but because he had found something worth staying for. Something worth becoming. A family. By choice, by bond, by law, and by love.